Hi, dear listeners, and welcome back to Blush and Bloom, the podcast where we talk about women's health, self care, and everything in between. I'm your host, Gigi, founder of Asele, your space for cycle aware and preventive care. I'm really glad you're here with me on this journey to unpack women's health and highlight the incredible things being built in this space. So let's get into today's episode. Hi, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me on the Blush and Bloom podcast. So, for someone who's meeting you for the first time, how would you introduce yourself and the work that you do?
Hi, thank you for having me in the first place. I really am very curious about how this will all unravel. I would introduce myself as a human being first and foremost. I am a neurospicy individual, and professionally, I'm in the talent acquisition space for 15 plus years. I'm the founder of Germany's largest talent acquisition or talent actually in general community by now. And I ventured off on my own solopreneurship adventure a year ago. Very confusing adventure. And apart from that, what other things people should know about me is that I paint. So what you see around me is mine and it's my little hobby. And I'm also absolutely scared of the dark and the horror movies. That's also really important to know.
Horror movies, but I don't watch them in the dark. Although I have
No.
watched one in a cinema in the dark. That was
Yeah,
something.
you will never catch me watching any horror movie whatsoever. It doesn't even matter where they are, no, just no. I'm terrible. Sorry.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
recommend like a soft one, but like I can't remember.
I mean, look, I did watch years ago, there was Scream, right? It was the Scream
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
I did watch that, the second one, in the cinema with one of my best friends at the time. He didn't tell me what's going to happen. And I was in the cinema in the second or third row because he bought tickets too late. It was absolutely excruciating. Never doing that again.
Okay. The one I
Yeah.
watched by myself was Smile. And there was like only like me and like two other girls in the cinema, which was interesting.
Yeah.
And the girl didn't move. I was scared of her more than the movie because she was just like chilling. I was like,
Nope. And I recently saw a meme. I think I reposted it on my Instagram, which said that if you don't like being lonely, you can watch a horror movie at night at home. You will feel like there is somebody else with you in the
oh
apartment.
God.
See, it's horrible. No, that's one thing I would not do. I would go and see the ocean though, if I could.
All right. Have like the kind of Moana experience. Okay, so I think you already like touched on this a little bit. So you've built your career around helping people grow in their career. So what sparked your interest in this particular thing, like talent and career development?
Honestly, I think it's the natural shift when you start your role in talent acquisition because you're just in it all the time. But I have to say, originally, I wanted to be an architect. So I studied architecture. Then my life happened and I ended up in the UK. And in the UK, I started working in a recruitment company. I think what happened was the more you go through recruitment, and I've been doing it a lot throughout these years that I've been in it, the more you start to kind of understand the behind the scenes, of course. And then for me, it's just natural to want to tell other people who are not behind the scenes what's going on, so that they don't feel so confused about the entire recruitment scene and how they should apply themselves when they are looking for new roles or for growing in their career. I also had really good mentors and I had really good people around me who supported my growth and they inspired me. And I believe a lot in karma and in paying it forward. I think I'm trying to accumulate karma points in a way. No, but I really believe in paying it forward. So I had people who supported me and who helped me understand stuff, and I would like to help others.
That makes sense. And that I think that's also very important. It reminds me of a conversation from there's this open source community I was in. And then the discussion was around how when you've grown to a certain extent, it would be awesome for you to like give back to other people who are also growing. And then it just continues that way. So that's really, really awesome. Okay, so this is ideally like a women's health podcast, but then I'm happy you said yes because I feel like financial stability is also very important for women's health, and I'm happy that you're here. So, what are your thoughts about women's well-being more broadly, and how does careers and financial stability fit into the picture?
I did open by saying that I'm neurospicy, right? So people should understand something from that anyway. I think it's a broad question, and I will try to maybe narrow it down a little bit because there are two things to it, right? So there is one, the career side of things, and there is the financial side of things. And arguably they go together, but not necessarily. So on the career side of things, I think one of the observations I have on my own skin, lived and went through, is the fact that it's quite obvious we are not as ballsy, as courageous as our counterparts sometimes tend to be. I'm not talking about everyone, but the vast majority of us, right? We are questioning much more. We are much more risk adverse when it comes to putting ourselves forward and trying to go after what we want in our professions, in our jobs, in our career ladders, if we want to grow. And unfortunately, what I noticed is that sometimes this translates on internalized stress and internalized shame. And this in turn comes to life through our own skin, through our own hair, nails, emotions, and everything else, right? So that's in a very, very short snippet, this career side of things. And then the financial side of things, I think we tend to associate a lot the fact that we are in a permanent full-time job with job security. Unfortunately, it's no longer the case. Maybe it used to be up to
Yeah.
maybe 10 years ago. It's no
Mhm.
longer the case. I think, especially for us as women, mothers, right, in the community that you have, there are mothers as well. Unstable environment that we are in is adding a lot to that. So one idea that I would have is I would truly encourage anyone who has a tiny little hobby to make that tiny little hobby into a monetized opportunity. Like that is the positive of today, where you can very easily start monetizing the things that you some time ago would have never thought about putting online to sell, right? So it's not all grim. It's also this opportunity to get some sort of financial freedom. I don't know. I don't think I answered your question precisely because I ventured away from it, but we can come back and
Yeah.
dig.
Okay. I have a question about the hobby monetization part,
Mhm.
because I have been seeing some posts on social media where it's like nobody's allowed to have hobbies anymore because it's like everybody's trying to monetize everything now because,
Yes.
as you said, like things are different. Like it poses this beneficial aspect that, yeah, you can monetize things like, say, crocheting and all these other things, but then it's like now it's almost kind of forced in a way that now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm having a hobby, and then is this a monetizable hobby or something?
You raise a very good point. I heard Leila Hormozi, recently saying on a podcast, she said that she heard somebody else say, how was it? You don't have to love your job, job your love. And it's related to this. And I was like, I so disagree with that. The idea was
Mm,
exactly this, right? If I'm painting, for example, I should sell my paintings. And how do you know when does this turn from a hobby and a passion to something that you're like, I need to paint more, to sell more, to make more money, where is
mm,
that? And I think that is on us to decide. If you have a permanent job, if you have
mm,
a steady income elsewhere, should stick like that, should be like that. And then this should be kind of on the side. I don't think I could ever, maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite now because I do make money from what I actually love.
mhm,
But for example, this is my hobby, and I would not make this into a business because I would be afraid of exactly that, right? I would hate it because I would end
yeah.
up being desperate. I need to paint more just to make money of it. But it needs, you have a certain level of privilege there, right? Because some people may not afford to do this. So if you are in that situation, in order to keep your hobby, if possible, then add something else which you can look at as a enjoyable side income, which may be related to your hobby, but not your main hobby, if that makes any sense. So it could be from painting. I don't know. I could think of photography. Take photos of this and make them into postcards or whatever it might be, and try to
That
make
makes sense.
that the main money maker.
All right. I think that was a very good answer there. I don't think you're a hypocrite. It makes sense. Okay. So another question for you is, was there a moment in your career where you realized that work isn't just about earning a paycheck and it affects like health and confidence and stability?
One, yes, multiple. I had two burnouts full on. And the last job I had was I quit my job before my probation period ended because I realized I can't do that. I don't want to do that. And I already started my community and I was working a lot I was having a full-time job and the community on top, which was a lot of work. And it was the first time in my life, and I was 38 years old. It was for the first time in my life when I took a gamble like this, because I can't be in a place where I'm not aligned with the values that they have, and it's really bad for me. And I've seen it with my best friend as well, when we put so much pressure on ourselves and we allow for this driving the shareholder value, we allow it to have such a strong influence on our life. It's our own
Yeah.
fault, right? But it's also hard to get out of it. That I saw people in 6 months burnout. I saw my best friend with nerves being completely wrecked around her body and half paralysis. Yeah, really horrible, horrible things happening because of this. And I also saw the positive of it, that we went away. We just went away from it, right? We realized that our life has priority, our health has priority, our body has priority, and we shifted away. We are much poorer than we used to be, I can tell you that. But at least we are not in goddamn pain, you know? So something has got to give.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then to be fair, it's like if you're earning that much money and then the person's experiencing paralysis, then what's the point of earning the money if you can't even like
Enjoy the
be yeah, to enjoy the money
Yeah.
and
But
you're
don't you, I'm sure you had conversations with other people who sometimes it depends also on the culture that you're raised in, right?
yeah.
Because both me and her, for example, come from the old communist bloc, and it's a very strict culture, very indoctrinating on the
Mm,
idea of stability, financial stability, yada, yada, yada. And you grow up like that. You don't understand why you're doing some of the things that you're doing, even if you're an adult. And it's just what everybody else next to you is doing. But they have coping mechanisms potentially, or maybe they don't actually give a damn as much as you do really give a damn. Plus, you're holding on to things to make them really good,
mm,
and then it breaks you. Unfortunately, no, I think it's fortunately. Fortunately, I think in the last couple of years, with everything that's been going on and how we've been laid off left, right, and center, I think we start to wake up now a bit more, you know? So even if it's absolutely rubbish, I think it's a blessing in disguise in a way to start and say, hey, why am I doing this? It's like, for whom?
that makes sense. Okay. So that gives a lot to think about. So many women, and I
Mm.
think you touched on this a little bit earlier as a neurospicy person. So many women struggle to find their voice in male dominated spaces. So can you share a time where you had to figure this? How did you navigate? If you've been in a situation like this, how did you navigate it?
I've only been in male dominated spaces because I work in technology. I think before I say anything, I want to preface this with something. I am lucky because on a couple of things. One, by now I'm old, and this means the more you grow up, the older you get, the less I can't swear on the podcast. Let's say I care about things. Number one, and number two, my personality is allowing me. I have a certain type of personality. I'm neurodiverse and I'm a Gemini on top. And it allows me to behave in a way in which other women I know are uncomfortable. So sometimes for me, I don't take men very seriously, right? And I could be very blunt and very courageous, but this is not for everyone. So I need to make this disclaimer, right? Now, I've only been in male dominated environments, and some of the things that I found that helped me, and I hope they can help somebody else, are the following. One is finding, let's say you are employed, you're in an organization, finding yourself mentors for the things that you want to grow or further develop into. These mentors don't have to be in your company necessarily. They can be external mentors. And if you find them on an online platform, try to get a male to be your mentor and learn from them also the art of communication. Learn, you can be very open with a mentor, literally, like imagine that they are a friend, and you can build this connection with them and you can allow yourself to be free, right? But have this conversation very transparently. If they are not up for it, then they will tell you. They have no obligation towards you, so they will not be ashamed to say, no, I can't do this. So give it a try and try to establish a different kind of communication with the mentor than you would have the courage to do so in your own company. Number two, in your organization, try to find a sponsor. A sponsor is somebody who will cheer for you or positively speak about you and your achievements behind closed doors. So in rooms where you're not present. Now, ideally, again, you would try to find here. It doesn't really matter because it depends more on the level that they're at. But I would try to find a male sponsor. And in order to do that, we need to try to make our work visible for them, whichever domain that they activate in, that you're in relation to that domain. It's about trying to bring to their attention how your work is making their life easier, so to speak. And sponsorship can be achieved by asking. So I don't know if you want to go maybe down that route a little bit on what can a woman maybe ask, or how could she put her hand up, or if you want to stay down this path of how is it to be in a male dominated field, what would be best for you?
Diving into how it will be more interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you approach somebody to be your sponsor?
Well, a sponsor would ideally be a level or two levels senior to you, because they are usually the individuals who are in rooms where you're not necessarily able to be in. It starts with a number of things. If you have connection with them, so imagine that they are your stakeholder, right? You work with them on a project, or you've been collaborating in a previous team, or whatever it might be, is trying to remember, where does my work somehow positively impact this person? What reason would I have to talk to them? If you're completely disjointed, it makes little sense, right? Because they need to know what you're working on and what you're doing. So always like, okay, I have this individual that I would love for them to be my sponsor. What can I give them? I can't give them too much back, but I can make them aware of how my work is supporting whatever they are working towards. Think the project that you worked on, which is important for them, for their business domain. What were your achievements in that project? How did your achievements help the overall outcome? And how that outcome is good for their business domain, right? Their whatever they are managing as a domain. Always like, what's in it for them? That would be the question I would ask myself. And after I have two or three of these little things, I would approach this at a coffee chat. I would literally try to book a conversation with that person. Can I ask you out for a coffee? And then I find that honesty is the best policy, because every human being at some point in their life needed the support of another human being to move somehow, even if it's from high school to uni or whatever it might be. They needed the support of someone. So using that kind of, I don't know if it's psychology, but I would use honesty, right? Like, hey, look, I've been following your work in this company. I love the business domain that you're handling and how you're handling it and how you're handling your people, even if it's not true, right? A bit of flattery never hurt anyone. And then, we collaborated on so and so project. Yes. Okay. I wanted to just bring to your attention at some point now, because now we're just having a coffee. I wanted to bring to your attention some stuff that I've done and ask you for some feedback. Would you be open for that? And they will most likely say yes, most likely. And when they do say yes, then you have a proper business meeting with them. And in that business meeting, you bring to the table the achievements that you had and how it helped them, what's in it for them. And then you proactively ask, look, you are in meetings, you are in environments where I'm not present yet, but I would love to be. And I would love to go for a promotion. I would love to go for whatever it is. I would like to ask if you would be open to being my sponsor in this case. And then you need to know what the sponsor means, because they will ask, what do you want from me? Right?
Yeah.
So you need to be able to tell them, well, I would love, for example, for us to have regular meetings, and I would maybe ask you for advice with my job. Also, you are in rooms where I'm not present. I would like to maybe understand from you what's going to happen, what's on the horizon for this business domain or for the company, so that I can work to making that happen, even if I'm not directly involved. So you need to have a number of like 2, 3 things down that you understand what you're asking of them. I hope that makes sense.
It made a lot of sense, because when you even raised it, I was like, okay, so how I like that you already answered my question, because I was going to ask, okay, you've met with the person, how do you sustain the relationship over time to make it beneficial for both? And I love that you already answered that. So that was actually really helpful. I do have a question from so let's say, does this mentor approach or sponsor approach, does it apply to startups as well? Or this is just more for corporates where there's already the existing hierarchy? Like if it was for a startup or say scale up environments, what could it look like?
Interesting question. I think it depends a little bit. What is the purpose for you to want to sponsor?
Okay.
Or the question could be, do you need a sponsor, or do you need an ally, or do you need a mentor? So what is the problem that we are trying to solve? Usually, I would say sponsors are really beneficial for us when we are in larger environments where we can't be present in different special spaces. In a startup environment, I would imagine, let's just imagine that you have a startup of, I don't know, 20 people, 30
Mhm.
people, and then somebody starts in their people and organization department or whatever, legal department, it doesn't even matter. And it's a single human being running an entire department, right? They might feel singled out, or they might feel alone. In that case, I don't know if we are seeking for sponsorship or if we are seeking for alliances. But regardless, I think we are seeking for alliances more, or let's say ambassadorship. Regardless, the mentality is kind of like, okay, I don't want to be this single legal person in this company and nobody knows what I'm doing. I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's okay, who do I make the most impact on? Whose department does my work impact the most? Let's say it's sales, because they had a lot of mess ups last year and I come in now to help them out. I'm going to build a connection there. I'm going to build an alliance with the sales department. So I would think like, okay, where do I add the most advantage to this? And then build an alliance there, because I can tell them, hey, I'm giving you something, then I can ask you back for something. And it doesn't have to be quid pro quo necessarily, but it has to be, you have to give people something before you ask them to give you back something, kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is like, okay, so we've talked about like making yourself more visible. I think also personally, this is something I struggled with because I'm more introverted, and then I'm just like personally making the effort to be as visible as I can. For
Yeah.
some,
You have a podcast. What are you talking about? You make a lot of effort.
it's a lot of effort and a lot of mental preparation.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. So for somebody who is more on the shy side and isn't particularly a fan of, they want to progress in their career, but they're not sure how to like be more vocal or appear, I don't know, I can't remember what the corporate word is for anymore, like be more visible in their, say, like the Slack or company Slack or something. What advice would you have for that person?
A more signal and less noise would be the title of the following blog post. Yeah, more signal and less noise. I don't think you have to be extremely loud to be visible. Yes, it does help. However, your work can also speak for itself, provided that you put it in front of the right people. You don't have to put it in front of all the people, but you have to select intelligently who are those people who need to see your work in order to help you advance. And that's where the sponsorship comes in. Again, imagine that we don't have a sponsor, we have a small company, we don't need a sponsor. The benefit of being in a small company is that you can speak to the decision makers, hopefully a bit more easy, but a bit easier, right? Because you have easier access to them. And as an introverted individual, one thing you could try and do is you need to understand, okay, I want to go from point A to point B. I can try to make a lot of noise and I don't know, play all the guitars and so on and so forth, or I can be really strategic about it and understand, okay, what is going to drive this organization forward? What is going to move the needle, as they say? And you can observe this for yourself. You can make some ideas in your own head and then have a conversation with decision makers, whoever they are in your realm, and make a proposal. Say, hey, this is my intention. I want to go for a promotion. I have looked at what needs to be achieved in order for this promotion to be done. This is what I came up with. What is your opinion on this? And then you can say, one of the things that is maybe needed is for me to be more visible in the wider organization. But as a human being, I'm on the introverted side. So how will you help me? Or how can we collaborate so that you can make my work visible? Sometimes have a boss, they are responsible for bringing that work of yours the bigger stage. I had a boss once who told me a leader's responsibility is to create the stage and put you on it.
Okay.
So, and that stays with me. It will stay with me forever, because not a lot of bosses do that. Not a lot of leaders do that, but it's our responsibility on the other end to ask for it. So if your manager doesn't build you a stage and put you on it to perform, you can ask for it. Hey, I don't know how to build this stage for myself. I don't know how to do all the, no, I need you to help me build this and just put me on it and I will deliver the work. I will do good work, but I can't do the whole look at me, I'm going up on stage. Our responsibility in that is to be proactive about it, to know what we are asking for, to ask for it, and then to be doing the work that we promise that we will do, of course. This is obvious.
That makes sense. And it reminds me of the conversations I used to have with my manager. And there was something he kept bringing up about managing up. And it's something I also struggled with because it's like, which is also, I'm about to ask you about this from your perspective, because I tried. And then I think somewhere along the line, I just got swept up with other things. So I think the idea of managing up was basically you proactively going to your manager with achievements or stuff that works well that you want him to like actually know it's happening. But then for my day-to-day work, I didn't particularly like see always like something worth reporting because I was too busy like actually like
Yes,
executing things to be
doing.
able to report like, hey, I did this, I did that, because I'm too busy actually doing the things. So
Yeah.
what advice would you have for somebody who's like struggling with something like that?
Can I show you a document as well? Can I share my screen with you for a minute? I will answer the question and then I will show you something. Managing up is, yes, partially what you just very well explained, right? But it is also about visibility. I wrote a lot about this. Yeah. I think maybe this is why we got in contact in the first place. Maybe you read some of the stuff that I wrote on this, but that's one of the things that you bring awareness to the work that you do. It's not the only thing. It's also about, remember when I keep beating this drum on the idea that what's in it for them. Another question that I keep repeating like a broken record is, so what? And that means that when we try to explain to our stakeholders, managing up doesn't only necessarily only mean vertically up. It can also mean on a different business domain, right? So in a different job family, so to speak. And when we try to convey the value of our work to somebody else, the question to answer is, so what? I've done blah, 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 blah. So what? And that so what question, the way that if we are to continue and answer that question, the answer would be, this is how it positively impacts your department, your business unit, your company, either or your team, right? You can start from the smallest to the largest. Not everything we do will have a positive impact on the company. Not everything we do will have a positive impact on the team or the department, but that's what we should always try to look towards, right? So this is what I've done, da 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 da, and the positive result is that as a result of my work, such and such got an increase of whatever it might be. You know how to formulate this when the case comes. So 2 questions: what's in it for them? Why should they even care about what we have to say? And 2, so what? So I want to show you something, because this is something I promise not to. It's not about overselling something, but I think it just relates. Really, it relates with what you talked about. So I'm going to put something up, and I strongly encourage you to do this yourself. It's called, this is
Okay.
part of something, you're recording the screen anyway. So this is a huge document. It's a master class. But what I want to show you is just this one tab, which is called the brag document.
I have one.
Great. I'm so happy to hear.
Encourage me to get one.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. The thing that you mentioned before is that I'm just doing the thing, and it's just, I'm doing it. And so it doesn't matter so much. But how about if we would book a time on a Friday, 15 minutes, to do a retro of our entire week and put down even the smallest, most ridiculous things? Really, I'm not even kidding. And from there, try to extract some value. You don't have to use this format, right? Instead of this, it can be value add, or who did I add value to, or whatever it might be. When we do things at work, we just do them, right? And for us, they are like duh. They're normal. We don't think about it. We are executing them, and we think it's not a big deal. But imagine, I don't know. When I think about, I have a friend who is in sales, and I was listening to him one day talk about whatever he's doing in his job, and I thought to myself, man, this guy is so smart. And I felt like an absolute moron. And I didn't tell him that and whatever. And I was like, at some point, like, man, he knows so much. And a while after, he heard me talk about something in my profession, and he was like, God damn, how do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I realized, like, oh, God damn, when I talk about what I do on a daily basis, for me, it's like this. The same it is for him.
Yeah.
And the same it is for everyone else. So whatever you think is tiny and minuscule and so easy, other people will absolutely so please, it's great that you have one. Please try, if you don't already do so, try to think of a value add. And then you bring this up in discussions. This is the question, so what that I've done this? What's the point at the end of the day? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does make a whole lot of sense. And I think from my brag document could use a revamp, because it was more like, I did this, somebody gave me the shout out over here, somebody did this, I
That's
did that.
great.
That kind of thing. So okay, so we're moving the conversation to another thing. Okay, some women, okay, I don't want to overgeneralize. Some women may feel undervalued at work. What do you think could remedy such a situation? What steps can they take?
I'm thinking because I think I will give an unpopular answer. First of all, okay, feeling and knowing are two different things. I would say, and by now I think a lot of us know that what we think influences how we feel, right? So, do they have evidence that they are undervalued, or is it honestly just a feeling? And if we assume that it is just a feeling, I would start to question my values. This is an exercise I did with one of my coaches. She absolutely, literally saved my life. I'm not even exaggerating, because I learned so much from her that I extracted myself from a really rubbish situation. So if you feel that you're undervalued but you don't really have the evidence for it, right? So evidence would be, I've been passed for a promotion even though I showed that I really matched that job, right? And I showed that I'm acting on the other job's level, and they still pass me for a promotion. And you have data to prove, that's knowing. If you don't have data to prove, then it's feeling. I'm generalizing it. I would ask myself about my own values. Am I in a place where my values align with the environment that I'm in? And the environment that I'm in is humans around me, is the work that I'm doing, is the values of the company, is the company's direction, is etc. It's a number of things. But do I know my values in the first place? Do I know them? And when I did this exercise for myself, and it took me a long time to figure out my values, because I thought I know it all. I had no idea. After that, it was very clear for me, very simply, that I'm in the wrong place because my values were misaligned. So what I felt that I'm undervalued, it was not me being undervalued. I was in the wrong place. So when we feel that we are undervalued, first, how about we try to figure out if we really are, or if it's just something inside of us? And if it's inside of us, let's look at the values that we have and see how they compare with what else is around us. I will start there.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's talk about AI.
Okay, sure.
So AI is changing a lot of the ways that employers are approaching careers, career people are approaching their careers. So what opportunities and risks do you see for women when it comes to this shift?
The one that I started with, the fact that they are not as ballsy as men. But the thing is that here we can't afford. We can't afford. If you can afford to be less assertive, because you may come across as aggressive, right? Which is very well known in our environment, in our lived life as a woman. When it comes to skills, we can't afford. It doesn't matter really what gender we possess, but to be in a place in where we say it's not going to impact me, it's not going to be of any use for me, whatever it might be, it's a very high risk. There are individuals who work with their hands, right? So imagine you're a hairdresser, you are a chef, you are a florist, whatever, right? So you might argue, I may not need AI. I will argue otherwise, because not that because AI will steal your job, one day probably a robot will, but that's probably going to be a while. But that's not why. But because maybe a florist down the road from you is already using artificial intelligence to collect more leads for their florist shop. Is using artificial intelligence tools to get ideas for more beautiful bouquets, yada, yada, yada. And this applies to every single profession. Even if you work with your hands, you're a carpenter, you still need customers. Yeah. And if you don't use tools, somebody else will. So that's a very simple thing. There are huge risks for us when it comes to our safety, I believe, because deep fake is now something that anyone can pull off in a millisecond. There is a tool called Nano Banana. It's actually not the official name. It's from Google. So Google released an AI image generation thing. The name on the street is Nano Banana. It has an actual business name. For example, if we are not careful now, more than we were before with our photos and where they land, they can be very decent photos. We risk literally safety that our photography, our personal photos, maybe more, let's say, intimate photos end up manipulated. It was also a risk before, but now
Mm-hmm.
it's even higher because it's so easy. And then that turns into a video because the tools are there to turn things into videos immediately. And then you add voice to it. So
Oh,
really, it has become so easy for these things to appear. So I think we have to take a much closer look at the way we allow ourselves, our photography, our videos, our private things to be shared in a way. But I would keep it on the positive, if I'm honest. I'm a fan of AI, even though it looks like I'm fighting against it. I'm not. I'm fighting against idiotic implementation of AI. I think we have more benefits than risks. No, yes, I do think
yeah.
we have more benefits than risks at the moment, provided that we hop on the train. I would love to see women really embracing this and being really courageous about utilizing the tools, about talking about their experience with the tools. I think it's a bit like ground zero. It's not zero anymore, but ground 0.2. And we had a level playing field, women and men and any other gender in between came out, or generative AI came out with a bang for everyone at once, right? We had a level playing field. Now, if some people decided to go and run with it and be courageous and be risky and just play, and some others decided not to, we can't blame it on the technology.
Yeah.
We can only look at ourselves, right? And then there is a lot more to discuss about it. I'm not going to go into intersectionality and all the other topics, privilege and so on and so forth, but high level.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we are headed towards the end of the podcast. So I have a few questions left. Based on your experience, you talked about burnout earlier. So
Mhm.
for women, especially now with this discussion we had about AI, and I also think that I think it's a general conception right now that with AI, employers are also expecting more from people. So it's like you're expected more of with either same salary or maybe even less. So for women, how can we, or maybe just people in general, how can we like
Mm.
prepare ourselves for this future of work where more is expected without burning out?
Boo.
Good question.
Yeah, it's big. It's a very important question. I don't know if I am the most qualified person to answer, but I can give you my perspective on it. I can tell you an example of what I'm doing because I am very prone to burning myself out because I don't feel my body. I don't understand when I'm tired. I don't understand when I am at my capacity. I don't get it. I don't feel it. I block time
Okay.
for myself. Literally, I have to force myself physically, remove myself from the chair and take myself on the balcony or out or in the kitchen or whatever to do something else apart from work. So I think it will require from our end a bit more, what is the correct word? I think we have to be ruthless with the way we prioritize our personal time. And in that personal time, I would also be ruthless with how much time we allocate upskilling
Mhm.
to upskilling ourselves. So I think if you haven't had a blocked time in your calendar before, even if it's during your working hours, for upskilling and for learning something every week, I think it's now the time to do that.
Mhm.
And because if you do it in incremental stages, you won't have to do a big chunk at once, which you risk really
Right.
getting overly stressed about, right? So if you do it a little bit by bit, so blocking time for pause and release and whatever it might be. This is
Mhm.
such a regurgitated advice. Everybody gives it. Honestly, keeping up to date in incremental little steps to avoid one big chunk of training, for example. These are the first two that come to my mind straight away. And maybe being a bit courageous to speak up more when things are getting too much.
Okay.
Yeah, we can dive deep. I would break this question into around five of them. So I would love to take them one at a time, but super high level, that's, I think, the best I can do right now.
All right. That was actually really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And okay, so I'll just go straight to this question. So what would you tell 15-year-old Andrea?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, another very regurgitated thing that you see everywhere, but it's the truth. Wear the damn shorts, I would tell the 15-year-old Andrea. I would tell her, no, apart from that, which is also true, I would tell her that her authenticity is the best, it's her biggest asset. And she should not be afraid of living and showing up authentically.
All right. That's
You should have told me. I got goosebumps. Can you see the goosebumps?
yeah.
Yeah, you should have told me about these questions. I actually, fair enough. You actually did. I didn't look, right? It's not your fault. It's my fault. Yes.
I mean, to be fair, we did discuss beyond the questions I prepared, so I'm happy about that too.
Yeah.
So okay. And the final question is for people who want to like learn more about you and your work and everything else that you're building, where can they find it?
Probably the easiest is LinkedIn because I post regularly and I'm there. And then from my LinkedIn, you have my website, The Principal Recruiter. And then from there, you also have my community. So Talent Crunch, that's more for people in the talent space, people, HR, culture, yada, yada. But these are the three things. And if they start with LinkedIn, they have then branches to everything else. Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Nice.
This has been very wonderful. I'm happy that you agreed to speak with me. Thank you so much, Andrea. It's been a pleasure learning from you and the frameworks and everything. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Gigi, for the time. It was really nice. Very different, I have to say, from the most of the podcasts that I do. So I'm really happy that I took you upon it and you gave me the opportunity to be part of it.
Hi again. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Blush and Bloom. I'm so glad you joined me for this conversation. If you found it helpful, please share this episode with a friend or someone who might need it. Let's keep talking about women's health and working towards better outcomes for all of us. You can find more episodes and resources at www.asele.tech and check out our app at www.asele.health. And you can follow us for more updates on Instagram at asele.tech. Until next time, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care and bye-bye.